Hello again. The virtual collapse of the traditional high street in this country, with the end of high street banks and shops such as Woolworths, has meant that in many districts one only sees now vape shops, charity shops, and barbers. At one time, a single barber would serve a pretty large area, and there might perhaps be one in the average high street. Those days are gone, and it seems that every other shop is now a barber's, almost all of which are run by Turks, Arabs, Albanians, or other dark-skinned foreigners. How on earth can they all manage to stay afloat? Surely there are not enough customers to make all of them worthwhile. This is especially puzzling because very few of them ever seem to be particularly busy. In fact, some never appear to have a single customer, and yet they still manage to maintain a presence there. It's all very odd. I was in Ilford the other week, unfortunately, and I walked down Vicarage Lane, which is a street not far from Seven Kings Station, in the direction of Leigh Street. That's a street which runs up to Newbury Park. It connects Ilford Broadway and Newbury Park. I mention this because interested viewers can, if they're minded to do so, follow my route on Google Street View. I walked down Vicarage Lane, at which point I turned left into Leigh Street when I reached the bottom. At the end of Vicarage Lane, on the right, was the Technicut traditional barber's shop. I crossed the road, and straight in front of me was the Hair Today barber's shop. Then, in the space of 50 yards, were the Danielle Hair Salon, Baghdad Barber Shop, another barber's called the Danielle Barbers, one called Ali Barbers, yeah, really, and then Kevin Cuts. That is 7 barbers in 50 or 60 yards of an unremarkable street. It's not a busy high street or anything, it's just a row of run-down shops on a busy residential street in East London. I might mention that only one of the barbers seemed to be doing any business, that is to say cutting hair. So, what's going on? It's easy enough to explain. Most of the Turkish and Arab barbers one sees are actually fronts for money laundering. They don't need to cut anybody's hair. With the way that banks are these days being very strict about looking out for money laundering, if you have a business which deals only in cash, say a cannabis farm, for example, then you're apt to end up with thousands of pounds in cash, which you wish to put in a bank and perhaps transfer to Albania or somewhere. How can you do this without raising a red flag at the bank, who are obliged to report to the authorities anything at all which looks even remotely like money laundering? It's easy. You rent a shop and fit it out cheaply as a barber's. Now you have the perfect excuse for paying in large sums of money to a bank. It's what shops and barbers do, isn't it? It's the perfect cover for money laundering without looking at all dodgy. Even cheaper to set up are nail bars. Viewers might have noticed that these too are to be found all over the place these days. Of course, sometimes a bit of money can also be made by actually cutting hair or doing nails, but this isn't the primary purpose of such places. I might mention that this is not a startling revelation. There is absolutely no secret about any of this. It's just generally one of those things which is generally known, which leads me to suppose that some baksheesh is most probably passing hands in the direction of local authority officers and others who might be expected to raise an eyebrow at the sight of half a dozen barbers' shops almost side by side. I'm guessing that many viewers have been perplexed to see the way in which our high roads have been taken over by nail bars and Turkish barbers in this way. This then is the explanation.